Revit handles signage using one of two different methods. One is a 3D modeled text, and the other is what's called a decal. And in this example, we're going to try doing one example of each. To begin with, I'd like to zoom in to this part of the building. For now, what we're going to do is we're going to put some 3D text along this wall. To start setting this 3D text along the surface of the wall, we first need to tell it that we want to set this wall as being the work plane. Underneath the Architecture tab, toward the right-hand side, it says Set. And if you click on the little icon that says Set, it's going to ask you to set the work plane. Right now, we don't have a work plane name, so we're just going to need to pick it. So we're going to pick the plane and click on OK. From here, move your cursor over until this wall highlights the way that my wall is highlighting right now. And when you see that, left-click on the wall. Now, it's not going to look like much has happened, but we are now drawing along the face of this wall. If you want to verify that, you can click on the word Show, which is right next to the Set button that we selected just a moment ago. And you'll see blue dashed lines going right along the face of that surface. Now, the next thing I want to do is just clear Show off because I don't like seeing that blue when I'm drawing. And now we're going to place some text right across the top here. To do this, once again, underneath the Architecture tab, toward the middle, there's an option here called Model Text. And if you pick on Model Text, it's going to bring up the Edit Text dialog box. For your own purposes, you can type in anything that you want to type in this box. I'm going to type in Infinite Skills and click on OK. From here, I'm going to start to move my mouse around on the face of this wall. And we can see that the words Infinite Skills are now following my mouse around no matter where it is that I highlight along this wall. In this case, I think I'm just going to click right about here and line it up so it looks like it's nice and centered on this part of the wall. And when I get it where I want it, just going to left click, and now I have Infinite Skills on the side of my building. If I select on this text, we can now look over here on Properties, and we can get some more information about what is going on here. One thing that's going on with this signage is that we have material properties associated with it. And if we wanted to assign a red color or a green color, a certain glass material, we could by just clicking here, clicking on this box right here, and then selecting a different material color off of the list. We could potentially even select a glass color, maybe one that illuminates light, such as this white high luminance. And then whenever we have it selected, the material that we want that sign to be made out of, we can click on OK to that, and it will apply that material to the signage. Also, we're not limited to this size of text or this font. Underneath Edit Type, we can see that we can specify what height we want this to be. Right now, it's just about 2 foot. If I'd like this to be something taller, like 2'6" or 3 foot, we could type that in here for the text size. As for the font can be any Windows font that we have available to us. And if you want to try a different font now, go ahead, select on a different font other than Arial, and that's going to be okay. For right now, though, I'm going to make this be 2'6" and make the text font to be Arial in my own example. When I did this, because the font is now bigger, it's starting to come off of my building. So I'm going to click on it and then start to drag it back over to a spot where it seems like it's going to fit on my building a little bit better. Once you have your text in the location you like it in, the next thing that we're going to want to do is start to put a decal somewhere along the surface. Sometimes what I use decals for is put them on doors. Sometimes I'll put them on glass. And the reasoning is that they can look like those stick-on stickers that you can put on windows, or it looks like it's etched directly onto a glass. But a decal is an image file, and what this allows you to do is put that image on any surface inside of the Revit model. We can find those decals underneath the Insert tab in the word decal. We will be placing one, but I want to show that there is an option here for decal types. And when we select on that, we can see that currently there's only one loaded in. What I've done is I've just taken a picture that I took at Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco, and I've placed it here. If you wanted to choose a different one off of the list, you could always come up to this box, click, and then choose one off of your own hard drive and load it in. And you'll notice also that we can affect such things as the brightness of this. I use transparency a lot if I want to have that etched look, so that if I placed it on the glass, for instance, we'd then be able to see through it with a certain level of transparency, and it would look like it was just etched directly on the glass. These also work extremely well for families that light up. such as television sets. If you want to do that, we have this option here for luminance. And we can pick LED panels, cell phone screens, halogen lamps, and they'll begin to actually light up. So if you do nighttime scenes or daytime scenes in dark rooms, it'll look like it's glowing with that image. In this case, though, I'm just going to leave it as not illuminated. It's going to be an exterior scene with a lot of light. There's more information that you can change here as well, but the point is that you have a lot of settings and you can make this image glow, transparent, or have those kind of properties that you need it to have. From here, I'm going to click on OK, and now underneath decal, I'm going to place the decal. I can pretty much place it anywhere that I want along this surface that we picked earlier. I'm going to click once in order to place it. I'm going to hit escape a couple times on the keyboard, and you notice that it doesn't show up right away. In fact, all we're seeing is a black box surrounding it. And if you click on that box, it'll look just like that box right there. Now, what happens is that this will only show up when it's time to render. So it won't show up in the normal Revit model other than the highlight around it, but it will render appropriately. Make sure that Lock Proportions is on over here underneath Properties when you've selected on it. And then expand this out, make it be a little bit bigger so it shows up nicely when it comes time for us to do a rendering. Once you get this centered exactly where you'd like it to be on your building, the next step would be to do a rendering of it. And we'll keep this fairly short and easy by coming down here on the bar going across the bottom of the screen, and you'll see a little teapot down there below. If you pick on the little icon, I'm going to set this to be a low quality. Now, this is going to keep our image from looking really sharp. At the higher quality settings, the better the image is going to look. At best, it'll look identical to whatever this photograph is of. Even at the high setting, it'll look identical to it. But at a low setting, it'll be a fairly fast rendering. So we're going to choose low in this case, and I'm going to click on the render button up here. One thing to know is when it comes time to do such things as rendering, we'll start to see the bar going across the top. Eventually, when it gets to reach the 50% mark, that's when it'll start to actually render the screen. But until then, it's going to have this black look on the screen, and we'll see a box jumping around on the screen, indicating that it's attempting to do the rendering. We'll give it a few more seconds. On average, one of these renderings that's done on a low level of detail usually takes about a minute to a minute and a half to render. In just a few moments, we'll start to see some colors showing up. If it looks a little bit fuzzy, not quite 100% defined, the reason is it is on that low level of detail, which is providing that quality. It would look sharp and almost like a real building if we had placed it on a higher level of detail. And from here, we can already start to see, here's the infinite skill sign, and I made it a clear glass material, and it has a slight glow to it. That's the reason why it looks kind of undefined and you're kind of looking through it here. But it is a three-dimensional glass sign, and it would glow in the nighttime. We can also see here's that picture of Fisherman's Wharf, and we can see it up against the face of the building. So 3D text allows us to place text right along the surface, and it creates great signage. Then we have our decals, which allow us to place images, may it be on television sets, on windows, or, like on this case, the face of walls, so that we can have renderings show up when it comes time to click render and create those presentation drawings.